Hey, what's up, friends? Thank you for joining me back for another incredible 16 video. In this video, I'm gonna talk about 4 reasons why Scarface is one of my favorite movies of all times. The first thing I wanna talk about is the character arcs. The writing is so unbelievable. Every single character goes from this person who we're first introduced to a totally different person at the end of their character arc. Let's jump in with the main character, Tony Montana. The archival footage used at the top of the movie does 2 important things. It creates the sense that we're watching a true story, and secondly, it sets the stage for Tony's character as a political refugee who lacks resources, power, and even civil liberties.
Where'd you get the beauty spot, tough guy?
Act 3 starts with a montage very different from the character who was first introduced. And what's more, the incredible writing makes it all seem totally plausible and realistic. This once weak man now has it all. Money, friends, a mansion with a pool, a beautiful bride, success, and power. The character arc and development doesn't stop there. Unfortunately for Tony, he will fall just as far as he climbed. By the end of Act 3, he has lost it all. Clear focus has become intoxicated turmoil. Ambitious drive has become hopeless despair. Trust and loyalty has become paranoia and greed.
You think you can take me? Give me a army, you're gonna take me! I'm Tony Montana! Get your fucking gonna get it!
Let's also look at the character arcs of some of the other main characters. Next, let's check out Manny, Tony's right-hand man and business partner. Manny's character is introduced as this super fun-loving, happy-go-lucky guy who's all about the ladies.
Take a look over there. You see that man there? Watch that guy. I gotta style him. I gotta watch my friend here. He's gonna stick his tongue out to that girl. Oh, look at that. Hey, yo!
You're sick.
You see what happened?
But just like Tony, his first scene and his last scene are polar opposites. In Manny's closing scene, he has now settled down, he is no longer a ladies' man, and he has become a devoted husband. Next, let's briefly take a look at Frank. To me, Frank serves a lot as a father figure to Tony, introducing him to the game, helping him understand the rules.
Lesson number 1. Don't underestimate the other guy's greed.
Lesson number 2, don't get high on your own supply.
That's right. Lesson number 2, don't get high on your own supply.
When we're first introduced to Frank, he's got it all. He's got the money, he's got the power, he's got everything Tony wants. Just like the other characters, in the final scene, Frank's character has been turned inside out. He's lost it all. He's lost his power, and more importantly, he's lost his dignity. He ends his character arc on his knees, begging for his life.
No, don't kill me, please.
Next, let's check out Elvira. Elvira is one of my favorite characters in movie history. There's something about her character that's just so interesting. I mean, as an actress, she photographs so well. She moves in such an interesting, graceful way. But Elvira, like the others, has opposite beginning and ends. The difference with Elvira, though, is that her character has a positive ending. When we're first introduced to Elvira, she's being led by the hand. Everywhere she goes, she's following a powerful man.
5 of us. Where are we having dinner?
I thought we'd go to the Babylon Club.
Again.
How dare you talk to me like that?
Come on.
Unlike Frank's character arc, at the end, Elvira takes her power back. In her final scene, she says she's not gonna take it anymore. She's trading in these materialistic ideals for her dignity and her self-respect.
I'm leaving you.
Lastly, let's take a look at Gina, Tony's sister.
Hey, you're beautiful.
Like many characters in the movie, Gina's story arc ends in tragedy. When we're first introduced to Gina, she has a childlike purity and innocence.
You look like a little boy. When I look at you, I got something for you.
But just like the others' character arcs, her first scene and her last scene are complete opposites.
Oh, Tony.
Here I am, Tony.
In the final scene, we see that Gina's pure soul has been completely polluted.
I'm all yours now.
In disgusting, yet completely understandable vengeance, Gina tries to seduce and kill Tony at the same time.
Do it now before it's too late. Oh, come on, Tony.
Check out how brilliantly the visual representation of Gina's first and last scenes are mirrored, and how we have almost the exact same composition and framing, where she starts out beautiful and pure, and in the end, dead and polluted. The second thing that I really love about this movie as a filmmaker is the way that it's structured. The character arcs you'll see sit perfectly on top of this story structure. One incredible example of the way that this patterns and structures work in a way to really tie everything together is the very last scenes of every act. So let's take a look at the last scene of each act and see how they build upon each other and how they really inform the story arc of Tony Montana. So here we are at the last scene of Act 1, and we have been introduced to this idea of Tony as this ambitious new political refugee, and Manny asks him, "What do you want?"
Me, I want what's coming to me.
Oh, well, what's coming to you, Tony?
The world, Chico. And everything in it.
As the movie progresses in this, we end Act 2, we see imagery and messaging that directly reflects the last scene of Act 1. Then as we come into the conclusion of the movie, in the last scene of Act 3, we again see the exact same imagery which ties the entire movie together. The third thing that I want to talk about that I love about the movie is the soundtrack. So specifically, what I want to talk about is a couple of non-diegetic elements, some being strings and different chord hits that really help bring you into the psychology of Tony Montana. The first time that we hear this chord hits is in the scene where Tony assassinates the politician in order to get out of the refugee camp. The second time we hear this same sort of technique is in the scene where Tony goes to visit his sister Gina, and then he's getting back in the car and Manny makes a remark, and this time it's a strings.
Okay, let go.
She's beautiful. How come you...
Hey! Stay away from her. You hear? She's not for you.
Okay.
The use of these non-diegetic sound elements are used almost exclusively in the relationship between Gina and Tony, with Gina representing purity and Tony representing evil, and as the movie's core thematic conversation being the relationship between good and evil, these elements really bring that thematic idea to the forefront for the viewer. The third time we hear the sound elements is in the Babylon Club, when Tony sees somebody hitting on his sister and threatening her purity. And boy, does it bring us into the psyche of Tony. The last time that we hear these sound elements, we have a combination of both the chord progression and the hits. And this time, it's when he kills Manny. We hear the chord progression that we've heard in the previous scenes when it comes to the threatening of the purity of Gina, and then we hear the hits of the killer instinct that we first heard in the scene when he kills the politician in order to get out of the refugee camp. So now in this scene, we have them all together. The representation of purity combined with Manny, who represents the idea of settling down. Those two things have come together, and Tony sabotages it all. I could really go on and on about all the incredible stylistic decisions that were made in this movie, but the last thing that I want to talk about is the use of color. In the movie, there's really two color palettes. The first one that I'll point out is the use of pink and cyan, which we most often use through lighting. On top of the pink and cyan and those blues being just a really dope look, they also bring you in on that Miami vibe, that tropical vibe. In stark contrast to the peace and beauty and calmness created by those pinks and cyans is the use of the color red. Red is used in almost every single scene that does not have that pink and cyan combo. Whether it's a red flag, red pants, piping on a tank top, a bandana, a car, a hat, an apple on a trash can, a beer can. There's red shirts, more red shirts, red shirts. There are so many red shirts in this movie, it's unbelievable. And then of course there's blood. I'll spare you with all the different bloody scenes. There's red gates, and there's red pillars, there's red carpets, red art, red bowls, red flowers. There's a ton of red when it comes to interior design. Umbrellas and chairs. Almost every interior design, again without that pink and blue, has the red. There's red in the restaurant, red on the love seat. And then of course there's the set piece with red walls, red stairs, furniture, ceilings, just an entire sea of red, and it's so, so beautiful. I really could go on and on about the many things that I love about Scarface, but I just wanted to point out a few of my favorites. If it seemed like informative to you, let me know. You know the drill with a like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. So anyways, that's it. I'm 16. Thanks for watching.